Adobe Illustrator Chapter 4, Part C. Now we're going to use the Smart Guides to move some content around. When moving objects with the Smart Guides turned on, remember you go up to View and make sure Smart Guides is on. Measurement labels appear next to the pointer and they display the distance in X and Y values from the object's original location. You'll use those to make sure that an object is a certain distance from the edge of your artboard. With the selection tool, you're going to click to select the basketball net. There it is. That's below the artboards. Now remember, you have to make sure that your third artboard is still active, and yes it is. So with that active, we are going to go to the control panel and we're going to make our placement up here in the X is 0 and the Y is 0. That's putting it, hit enter, and that's going to put that basketball net up in the corner. So now we go to View, we're going to fit that artboard in Window, and what we want to do next is using the selection tool. You're going to position the pointer over the selected basketball hoop. You're going to click and drag the group down and to the right. You're going to press your Shift key, which is going to constrain this to a 45-degree angle as you drag. So click and hold down and drag. And you see how that kind of pops from straight down to over here. That's what the holding the Shift key down will do for you. And we're going to get this to move about, let's see, on the direction on the X, a quarter of an inch, and the Y, a quarter of an inch. So we want to go down a little bit farther, 0.24, 0.25, and that's where I'm going to stop. I must release my mouse button, and then I can release the Shift key, and the artwork is selected. And if you look up top, it rounded it off. If I really wanted to move that and be super accurate, I could by simply typing the numbers in, but I'm good with that. Now the dx indicates distance moved along the x-axis, and the y is distance moved along the y. And it can be really difficult when you're zoomed out like that, so that you don't get really tight accuracy. Like I said, you can always type it in. The next thing that we're going to do is we're working on scaling. So save what you've got done so far. And the next thing we're going to do is scale some objects. We've done this with the selection tools, and now we're going to do some other methods for scaling. With the basketball hoop and net still selected, we didn't deselect. Ensure that the upper left point of the reference point up here is selected in the control panel. You want to click to constrain the height and width proportions, which is going to be the link here. So when they're chained together, it's going to keep the same height and width proportionally, and you're just going to change one or the other. So we're going to change the width value. We're going to work with percentage this time. We're not giving it an inch. We're going to go 225%. Shift key, there it is. Okay, and that increased the size of the net. And all we had to do was hit enter then. Now I don't think I got 225%. Let me back up and go to edit, undo, redo scale. Oh, I must have done something wrong. Let me undo my scale. Let me go back up here and go 225%. Hit enter, because that should have made it much larger than that. That's much better. When typing the values to transform the content, you can type different units. You can use percent, you can use pixels, and they'll be converted to whatever the default unit is, which in our case, we're using inches. If you go to next to hold your control or command key down and hit plus, or minus, sorry, we're going to zoom out. We'll see all the content of off the bottom edge of the artboards again. Well, if you can't, you're going to have to scroll down. And the next thing we're going to do is select the basketball. So that's down here. Double click the scale tool in the tool panel. This is the scale tool. Double click that. You're going to get the dialog box, and you want to change where it says uniform to, let's see, 61%. And this one will fill in the percent key for you. And all you're going to do next is say OK. That scales it down. Now, with the selection tool, you're going to drag the basketball onto the first artboard that's named front. And it's going to go up, let's see, oh, right about here. So it's about halfway on. About 3.5 inches. The DX is about 3.5 inches minus, somewhere close around there. And DY is going to be about minus 6 or 7. And it's not going to really matter. You can bring it down a little bit. There you go. Right around in through there someplace. And let that go. Next, we're going to zoom in on the basketball court down here, the one that doesn't have the numbers. Okay, so I'm going to zoom into that, and I'm going to select it. And the stroke weight, if you look up in your control panel, you'll see that the stroke weight is just 1 point. Now we're going to go to View, and we're going to show edges. Let me find my View Edges. There it is, Show Edges. There we go. And now we're going to open up the Transform panel by clicking one of these up here. Any one of these, the X, the Y, the width, the height, any of those four will open up this Transform panel. And we're going to select to scale, stroke, and effect. There you go. In the control panel, you can click the reference point. There you go. And then if you want to close that, we can, or you can leave that there. The next thing we're going to do is we want the make sure, yes, constrain height and width is still selected. And we're going to change the width to 3.5, which will automatically add the inches to it. And you can hit Enter or you can hit Tab. Enter is good. And that's going to increase the size of that artwork. The stroke weight now is 2 points because we set to have that scale along with the size, the overall size. By default, stroke and effects, like drop shadows, aren't scaled along with the objects. If you put a circle with a 1 point stroke and you increase the stroke remains at 1. But if you select scale, strokes, and effects before you do the scaling and then scale that object, that stroke will change relative to the amount of the scaling that's being applied. The next thing we're going to do is reflect the object, which basically means it's flipping the object across an invisible vertical or horizontal axis. It's like scaling or rotating, but when you reflect an object, you can either designate the reference point or use the object's center point by default. So now we're going to use the reflex tool to flip the basketball court 90 degrees across the vertical axis and to copy it. So we're going to select the reflect tool. you're going to find the reflect tool underneath the rotate tool. So if you click on the rotate tool, you'll get to select the reflect tool that's hidden underneath it. Now, we're going to right click the edge of the basketball court. Okay? You see we've got a crosshairs now, so we're going to right click on that. You're going to get path or anchor if you wrote right over it. That's putting the invisible axis that the shape is going to reflect around on the right edge of the selected artwork rather than in the center. Wherever we click is going to set that reflect point. With it still selected, go off the right edge and you're going to click and drag clockwise. And guess what? Mine rotated around the center. It should have selected. Let me undo that. Control Z is undo. I should have been able to set my reflect there. Yes, there it is. Okay, maybe I waited too long. Now I can click and drag and rotate. And if I hold my Shift key down, I'm going to be constrained so that I will lock into the right place. If I hold down my Shift Option or Shift Alt, I will be able to do some duplication here. Should be Shift to do the minus 45. I want minus 90. Shift Alt. There we go. And guess what? It not only rotates and keeps everything on an even angle, we also get a duplication. The Shift key constrains the rotation to 45-degree angles. So we did two 45s, 90 degrees. The Alt button, the Alt key or Option key will copy the artwork. And so now we have two pieces put together. We're going to move that after a bit. Make sure you save.